Her skin betrayed her. Every emotion, fear, joy, shame, hope, burned across her body in radiant color for all to see. She hated it. She hid from others, avoided touch, avoided trust. But then a human reached out, and the galaxy would never be the same. First Contact Protocol Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES horizon, watching the alien world rotate slowly beneath them. Prisma 7 glowed with an iridescent quality that their sensors couldn't quite explain. After 3 months of deep space exploration, they had finally found what humanity had searched for since first looking at the stars: intelligent alien life. The readings were unmistakable: cities that pulsed with organized light patterns, atmospheric modifications that suggested advanced technology, radio signals that carried the mathematical elegance of language. Sarah's heart raced with the weight of this moment. She was about to become the first human to officially greet another sapient species. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," Communications Officer James Park announced. The main screen flickered to life and Sarah felt her breath catch. The being that appeared was humanoid in basic structure, but utterly alien in appearance. Their skin seemed to shimmer and flow with colors, currently settling into a deep blue-green that reminded Sarah of Earth's oceans. "Greetings. Visitors from beyond our sky," the alien spoke, their voice melodious through the universal translator the crew had been perfecting. "I am Ambassador Calvor of the Spectra Collective. Your arrival has been anticipated." Sarah stepped forward, activating her own transmission. "Ambassador Calvor, I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Horizon. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship among the stars." As she spoke, she noticed Calvor's skin shifting to a warmer amber shade. Their large, multifaceted eyes seemed to study her with intense curiosity. "Your words carry sincerity, Captain Chen. We invite you to our world. But know that we Spectra see truth in ways your species may find unusual." 3 hours later, Sarah led her diplomatic team into the Spectra reception hall. The architecture was breathtaking, walls that seemed to be grown rather than built, surfaces that responded to proximity with gentle light. Her team consisted of Dr. Elena Vasquez, their xenobiologist, Lieutenant Marcus Rivera, their medical officer, and Commander Yuki Tanaka, their security chief. The Spectra delegation was equally small but impressive. Besides Ambassador Calvor, there was Zaranel, introduced as their linguistic specialist, her skin currently a soft violet that seemed to pulse with her breathing. The third was Vormak, their military advisor, whose skin remained a steady granite gray. "Before we begin formal discussions," Calvor said, his skin shifting to what Sarah was beginning to recognize as a neutral diplomatic gold, "you should understand our nature. We Spectra cannot hide our emotions as you do. Our very beings reflect our inner state." Dr. Vasquez leaned forward with scientific interest. "A form of chromatic cellular response? Absolutely fascinating. Is it voluntary?" "Some aspects we control," Zaranel responded, her violet deepening slightly. "Others are as automatic as your heartbeat. Joy, fear, anger, attraction, all visible to those who know how to read the patterns." The initial exchange of information went smoothly. The Spectra were surprisingly open, sharing basic facts about their civilization, their peaceful expansion to 3 star systems, their curiosity about other life forms. Sarah reciprocated with humanity's story, their struggles, their dreams, their journey to the stars. Everything changed during the break for refreshments. Marcus had been examining a Spectra beverage dispenser, trying to understand its operation. Zaranel moved to assist him, reaching for the same control panel. Their hands touched for just a moment. The reaction was instantaneous and shocking. Zaranel's entire body flared with a brilliant golden-white light that pulsed in waves from the point of contact. She gasped, a sound that was part surprise and part something else. Wonder, perhaps. Every Spectra in the room turned, their own skins flickering with alarm and confusion. Marcus jerked his hand back immediately. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to," but Zaranel wasn't listening. She stared at her hand, then at Marcus, her skin still pulsing with that unprecedented golden glow, though it was slowly fading. That's impossible," she whispered. Vormak stepped forward, his gray deepening to near black. "What did you do to her?" "Nothing." Marcus raised his hands defensively. "We just touched accidentally. I didn't mean any harm." Calvor moved between them, his skin cycling through several colors rapidly. Concern, curiosity, confusion. Zaranel, speak to us. What happened? She seemed to gather herself, the golden glow finally settling to a shimmering rose color that none of the humans had seen before. The ancient texts speak of it, but I never believed. When the human touched me, I felt resonance, as if every cell in my body recognized something long lost. Dr. Vasquez was already pulling out her medical scanner. Lieutenant Rivera, may I scan you? And Zaranel, with your permission? Both nodded. As Vasquez worked, the tension in the room was palpable. The spectra huddled together, their skins flickering with rapid conversation in colors too quick for human eyes to fully follow. The humans stood apart, uncertain and worried that they had somehow damaged the first interspecies contact. Captain, Vasquez said quietly, showing Sarah her readings. I'm detecting unusual electromagnetic signatures from both of them. It's as if the contact created some kind of feedback loop between their bioelectric fields. Kelvor's skin had settled to a deep purple of contemplation. There are legends among our people, he said slowly, of the static ones, beings whose touch could awaken the deep light within us. But those are myths from before we reached the stars. Stories told to children? Perhaps, Zaranel said, her voice stronger now. Those stories held more truth than we knew. She looked at Marcus, then at the other humans. I felt no harm from the touch, only connection, as if finding a piece of a puzzle I didn't know was missing. Sarah saw an opportunity and took it. Then perhaps this is a sign that our peoples are meant to know each other. We came seeking friendship among the stars. Maybe this unexpected reaction is the universe's way of showing us we have more in common than we appear. Vormak's skin lightened slightly from its defensive black. Or it could be a weapon. How do we know this isn't some form of biological manipulation? Because we didn't know you existed until 3 months ago, Sarah replied calmly. How could we have prepared a biological weapon for a species we'd never encountered? The logic seemed to resonate with the spectra. Kelvor's skin shifted through several contemplative shades before settling on a cautious teal. This requires further study. But I agree with Captain Chen. This could be an opportunity for greater understanding between our peoples. He turned to address both groups. We will adjourn for today. Our scientists will want to examine this phenomenon. Tomorrow, if both parties agree, we can conduct controlled tests to better understand what happened. As the humans prepared to return to their shuttle, Zaranel approached Marcus. Her skin had settled into a soft lavender with golden undertones. Lieutenant Rivera, I hope you will volunteer for these tests. I am most curious to understand what passed between us. Marcus nodded, still looking slightly stunned. Of course. I'm sorry if I caused you any distress. Distress? Zaranel's skin rippled with what might have been amusement. No, Lieutenant. What I felt was not distress. It was recognition. As if your species and mine share something fundamental that we have forgotten. As the human delegation departed, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this accidental touch had just changed everything. The spectra's chromatic communication was remarkable enough, but this resonance effect suggested something deeper, a connection between their species that defied current understanding. Back on the horizon, Sarah called a senior staff meeting. The implications of the day's events needed to be discussed and reported to Earth Command, though the communication delay meant they would be making decisions on their own for now. What's your assessment, Doctor? Sarah asked Vasquez. The xenobiologist pulled up her scans on the meeting room display. The spectra's chromatic system is unlike anything in our databases. It appears to be a complex network of specialized cells that respond to neurochemical changes. But when Marcus touched Zaranel, both of their bioelectric fields spiked in synchronized patterns. Could it be dangerous? Commander Tanaka asked, ever concerned with security. I detected no harmful radiation or cellular damage, Vasquez replied. If anything, both subjects showed elevated endorphin levels afterward. It was as if the contact triggered a positive biological response in both species. Marcus, who had been quiet since their return, finally spoke. When we touched, I felt something too. Not as dramatic as what happened to her, but a warmth, a sense of connection. Like meeting someone you've known all your life but never met before. Sarah considered their options. First contact protocols were clear about avoiding biological contamination, but this wasn't contamination in any traditional sense. This was something unprecedented, a biological compatibility between two species from different star systems. We proceed with caution but openness, Sarah decided. Tomorrow we participate in their tests. We learn everything we can about this phenomenon, and we make it clear that humanity has no intention of using this as any kind of weapon or tool of manipulation. As her crew dispersed to prepare reports and ready equipment for the next day's tests, Sarah remained in the meeting room, staring at the image of Prisma 7 on the display. Humanity had reached for the stars, hoping to find they weren't alone. Now they had found the spectra, beings who wore their emotions as colors on their skin. And somehow, impossibly, human touch awakened something dormant within them. The universe, it seemed, was full of surprises. Sarah could only hope that this surprise would lead to understanding and friendship, not fear and conflict. Tomorrow would bring answers, she hoped. But tonight, she allowed herself a moment of wonder at the magnificent possibility that humanity and the spectra were connected in ways they were only beginning to understand. The resonance effect, Doctor. Elena Vasquez had barely slept, her mind racing with hypotheses about the remarkable interaction between human and spectra biology. The laboratory the spectra had provided was a marvel of biotechnology, with instruments that seemed to respond to thought as much as touch. She worked alongside Thymazel, the spectra's lead scientist, whose skin shifted between curious orange and analytical blue as they compared notes. Your species' electromagnetic signature is unique, Thymazel observed, her multifaceted eyes studying the data streams. Most carbon-based life forms we've encountered operate on similar frequencies. But humans, you broadcast on wavelengths we've only seen in ancient stellar phenomena. Elena leaned closer to the holographic display showing the bioelectric patterns. And your chromatic cells respond to those wavelengths? Not just respond, Thymazel corrected, her skin flickering to an excited yellow. They harmonize, watch. She pulled up the recording from yesterday's incident. Where Marcus and Zaranel had touched, the energy patterns formed perfect sine waves, synchronized like two instruments finding the same note. In the testing chamber next door, Marcus sat across from Zaranel, both connected to monitoring equipment. Captain Chen observed alongside Ambassador Kelvor, while security personnel from both species stood at discrete distances. We'll start with controlled proximity, Thymazel announced through the intercom. Move your hands closer, but don't touch yet. Marcus extended his hand slowly. As it neared Zaranel's, her skin began to shimmer, colors rippling outward from her fingertips. I can feel it, she said softly. Like standing near a warm fire, but the warmth goes deeper than skin. Bioelectric field interaction is intensifying, Elena reported. Marcus, any sensations? Tingling, he replied. Like static electricity, but pleasant. Now make contact, Thymazel instructed. Their fingers touched, and once again Zaranel's skin erupted in golden light. But this time, prepared for it, she didn't pull away. The glow pulsed rhythmically, synchronized with both their heartbeats. Marcus's monitoring equipment showed his neural activity spiking in regions associated with recognition and memory. Fascinating, Elena breathed. Marcus, your brain is lighting up in areas we see activated during déjà vu experiences. That's exactly what it feels like, Marcus confirmed, his voice filled with wonder. Like I'm remembering something I never knew I'd forgotten. Zaranel's colors had stabilized into a flowing pattern of gold and rose. In our oldest archives, there are stories of the time before, when the spectra were different before we developed our chromatic nature. The texts say we changed to survive some great catastrophe, but lost something in the transformation. Ambassador Kaelvor's skin shifted to deep purple contemplation. The sacred chronicles speak of the separation, when those who would become the spectra chose one path of evolution, while others chose differently. We always assumed the others perished. What if they didn't? Sarah suggested. What if they found another way to survive? Took to the stars by different means? Elena's mind was already racing ahead. We need genetic samples. With both species' permission, of course. If there's a common ancestor, however distant, DNA analysis might reveal it. The testing continued for hours. They discovered that not all humans triggered the same response. It varied by individual, with some creating stronger resonance than others. Marcus and Zaranel showed the most powerful connection, while others produced only mild chromatic shifts. During a break, Marcus found Zaranel on an observation balcony overlooking the Spectra City. The architecture was alive with color, buildings that seemed to breathe with the collective emotions of their inhabitants. "Your cities are incredible," Marcus said, maintaining a respectful distance. Zaranel's skin rippled with what he was learning to recognize as pleasure. "They reflect us as we reflect our inner selves. But humans," she turned to study him. "You hide everything inside. How do you trust each other when you can't see truth?" Marcus considered the question. "We learn to read smaller signs. Body language, tone of voice, actions over time. It's imperfect, but it teaches us to look deeper. Perhaps that's why your touch awakens something in us," Zaranel mused. "You've developed perception we lost when we became transparent." "May I?" Marcus gestured toward her hand. She extended it willingly. This time, when they touched, both were prepared for the sensation. The golden glow was softer, more controlled, but the connection felt deeper. Through the monitoring device on his wrist, Marcus could see his neural patterns aligning with hers. "There," Zaranel whispered, her colors flowing in complex patterns. "Do you feel it?" "It's like completion." Before Marcus could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the city. Both rushed inside to find chaos erupting in the diplomatic center. On the main screen, a group of spectra whose skins blazed with angry reds and hostile blacks stood before what appeared to be a government building. "The purist faction," Kyle Vor explained, his own skin darkening with worry. "They've been a minority voice, but this human contact phenomenon has given them ammunition." The figure at the group's center spoke, his words translated through the communication system. "The static ones are not saviors, they are corruption. They disrupt our pure chromatic nature with their alien touch. Already our people line up to be touched by these humans addicted to false resonance." Sarah stepped forward. "Ambassador, we should leave. We don't want to cause civil unrest among your people." "No," Kalvor said firmly, his skin shifting to determined bronze. "The purists fear change, but change is not always negative. We must address this properly." Over the next several hours, the situation escalated. News of the resonance effect had spread throughout Spectra society, and reactions were mixed. Some saw it as validation of ancient prophecies, proof that the spectra were part of some greater cosmic plan. Others, like the purists, viewed it as contamination of their species' unique nature. Elena worked furiously with Thymazel on genetic analysis while the political storm raged. What they discovered changed everything. "Captain, Ambassador, you need to see this," Elena called urgently. The genetic comparison was displayed in three-dimensional glory. Human DNA and spectra DNA were radically different in structure, but buried deep in what humans called junk DNA were identical sequences. Complex patterns that served no current biological function, but matched perfectly. "These sequences are ancient," Thymazel announced, her skin cycling through amazed colors. "Millions of years old. They predate both our species' recorded history." "A common origin," Elena confirmed. "At some point in the distant past, we were one species. Some catastrophic event split us, and we evolved along different paths." "The separation," several spectra said simultaneously, their skins flickering with awe. Kalvor's skin had turned to a shade of gold similar to what they'd seen in Zaranel. "If this is true, then humans aren't alien invaders. You're our lost siblings returning home by paths we never imagined." But even this revelation didn't calm the purists. Their leader, who identified himself as Morgath, appeared on communication channels across the planet. "Lies and manipulation. Even if we shared origin, we chose separation for good reason. The static ones represent everything we evolved beyond: hidden emotions, deception, violence." "He's not entirely wrong about our capacity for violence," Commander Tanaka said quietly to Sarah. "Human history isn't exactly peaceful." "Neither is theirs," Sarah replied, watching as security forces moved to contain purist demonstrations. "They just express their conflicts differently." As night fell on Prisma 7, the human delegation found themselves essentially trapped in the diplomatic center, while Spectra Society grappled with the implications of their discovery. Marcus and Zaranel continued their connection experiments, now joined by other volunteer pairs. Each pairing revealed new aspects of the phenomenon. The resonance seemed to awaken dormant abilities in both species. Some spectra reported enhanced perception after contact, able to sense emotions in humans despite their lack of chromatic display. Some humans found themselves able to consciously influence their bioelectric fields, creating specific responses in spectra partners. "It's like we're teaching each other. one human xenologist observed. They're showing us how to project our inner states, and we're showing them how to perceive beyond the visible. We proceed with caution but openness, Sarah decided. Tomorrow we participate in their tests. We learn everything we can about this phenomenon, and we make it clear that humanity has no intention of using this as any kind of weapon or tool of manipulation. As her crew dispersed to prepare reports and ready equipment for the next day's tests, Sarah remained in the meeting room, staring at the image of Prisma 7 on the display. Humanity had reached for the stars hoping to find they weren't alone. Now they had found the spectra, beings who wore their emotions as colors on their skin. And somehow, impossibly, human touch awakened something dormant within them. The universe, it seemed, was full of surprises. Sarah could only hope that this surprise would lead to understanding and friendship, not fear and conflict. Tomorrow would bring answers, she hoped. But tonight, she allowed herself a moment of wonder at the magnificent possibility that humanity and the spectra were connected in ways they were only beginning to understand. The resonance effect, Dr. Elena Vasquez had barely slept, her mind racing with hypotheses about the remarkable interaction between human and spectra biology. The laboratory the spectra had provided was a marvel of biotechnology, with instruments that seemed to respond to thought as much as touch. She worked alongside Thai Mazel, the spectra's lead scientist, whose skin shifted between curious orange and analytical blue as they compared notes. Your species' electromagnetic signature is unique, Thai Mazel observed. Her multifaceted eyes studying the Dr. Vasquez made another crucial discovery. The resonance effect created temporary but measurable changes in brain chemistry for both species. Neurotransmitter production increased, particularly in areas associated with empathy and social bonding. It's not just recognition, she explained to the assembled teams. The contact literally makes both species more capable of understanding each other. It's enhancing our capacity for interspecies empathy. Vormak, the military advisor who had been skeptical from the start, volunteered to test the connection himself. When he touched Commander Tanaka's hand, his usual granite gray exploded into a cascade of colors none of the spectra had seen from him before. I understand now, he said, his voice shaken. When you touch us, we feel what you feel inside. Your hidden emotions become visible to us, and you see our truth beyond the colors. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A young spectra child, brought by curious parents to see the humans, touched Sarah's hand without fear. The child's skin lit up with pure, joyful gold, and she laughed, a sound that transcended species. See? The child said to the adults. They're not scary. They're just different same. The innocent wisdom spread through social networks. Different same became a rallying cry for those who supported human spectra connection. The purists found their support eroding as more spectra experienced the resonance and found it not corrupting, but completing. By the end of the second day, even Morgath agreed to meet with the human delegation, though he refused physical contact. His skin remained hostile black throughout the meeting, but he listened as Sarah presented their findings and proposals for limited, voluntary exchange programs. You speak of benefits, Morgath said, but what of risks? What if this resonance is addictive? What if we lose our chromatic nature through too much contact? Then we proceed slowly, Sarah replied. We study, we learn, we adapt. That's what both our species do best. We survive by understanding and changing. The data supported careful optimism. The resonance effect showed no signs of permanent alteration to either species' fundamental biology. If anything, it seemed to enhance existing capabilities rather than replace them. As the human delegation prepared to return to their ship for the night, Zaranel pulled Marcus aside. Her skin was a complex pattern of colors he was still learning to read. Tomorrow our Council of Colors will vote on whether to permit further contact with your species, she said. Whatever happens, I want you to know that touching your mind through your touch has been the most profound experience of my life. Marcus felt the warmth of connection even without physical contact. We've found something amazing here. Not just first contact, but first connection. Whatever happens, that's changed both our species forever. The vote would determine whether that change led to a new chapter of cooperation or a closing of doors that had barely opened. But in the connection between human and spectra, in the resonance of separated siblings reuniting across the cosmos, there was hope for something unprecedented in both species' histories. The diplomatic crisis, The Council of Colors convened at dawn. Their chamber, a stunning amphitheater where each member's emotional state created a living mandala of shifting hues. Sarah and her team watched from an observation gallery as 500 Spectra representatives filed in, their skins creating a rainbow of opinions and concerns. Ambassador Kael'vor had spent the night preparing their case, but the opposition had also organized. Morgath's purist faction occupied nearly a third of the chamber, their skins maintaining disciplined blacks and grays of rejection and suspicion. The question before us transcends simple diplomatic relations, Kael'vor began, his skin shifting to formal purple. We must decide whether to embrace a connection that challenges our understanding of ourselves. The debate was unlike anything the humans had witnessed. Emotions became visible arguments rippling through the crowd in waves of color. When someone spoke of fear, yellows and oranges flickered through the assembly. When another mentioned hope, blues and golds emerged like dawn breaking. Morgath rose to speak, his black coloration deepening. For generations, we have prided ourselves on our transparency, our inability to deceive. These humans hide everything. How can we trust beings whose very nature is concealment? You speak of trust, Zaranel countered, her skin blazing with conviction. Yet you refuse to experience the connection yourself. You judge what you will not understand. The argument escalated when Vormak, the military advisor, stood. His transformation from skeptic to supporter had influenced many. I touched them. I felt their hidden depths. Yes, they conceal, but not from deception, from protection. They are warriors who learn to guard their hearts. We are empaths who learn to display ours. Together, we become complete. 3 hours into the debate, an emergency transmission interrupted. Ships had been detected approaching Prisma 7. Not human vessels, but something else. The main screen activated, showing sleek, angular craft emerging from hyperspace. The Vorth Collective, someone whispered. And Sarah saw fear ripple through the chamber in waves of sickly green. Kael'vor's skin went pale. They are raiders, Captain Chen. Beings who take what they want through force. We have avoided them for decades, but if they've found us... Sarah stood immediately. The Horizon stands ready to assist in your defense. Morgath's faction erupted in angry reds. You see? The humans bring violence. First their corrupting touch, now their enemies. These aren't our enemies, Sarah protested. We've never encountered these Vorth, but the damage was done. The council dissolved into chaos, colors flashing so rapidly it was almost stroboscopic. Some called for immediate evacuation, others for surrender, still others for accepting human military aid. On the Horizon's bridge, Tactical Officer Lieutenant Commander Reyes analyzed the approaching ships. 12 vessels, Captain. Heavy armor, energy weapons charged. They're not responding to any communication attempts. Sarah made a command decision. Bring us between the Vorth and Prisma 7. Show them they'll have to go through us. Captain, Commander Tanaka warned, we're one ship against 12. But we're not alone, Sarah replied. The Spectra have their own defenses. We just need to buy them time to organize. The Vorth response was swift and brutal. Energy beams lanced toward the Horizon, but the ship's experimental shields held. Sarah noted with grim satisfaction that human defensive technology seemed more advanced than the Vorth expected. Below on the planet, something remarkable was happening. The crisis had united the Spectra in a way the debate hadn't. Even Morgath's purists were coordinating defensive measures, their skins synchronizing into patterns that somehow boosted their technology's effectiveness. Captain, incoming transmission from the Vorth, Park announced. The screen revealed a creature that looked like living shadow, dark, angular with eyes that seemed to absorb light. Humans, it spoke with mechanical precision. You defend the light dancers, curious, they have something we want. Then you'll be disappointed, Sarah replied firmly. Prisma 7 is under our protection. The Vorth commander made a sound that might have been laughter. One ship cannot stop us. Then it's fortunate we're not just one ship, Sarah said. She turned to Park. Execute Contingency Protocol 7. It was a bluff, but the Vorth didn't know that. Park began broadcasting signals that suggested multiple human vessels were approaching from hyperspace. The deception wouldn't hold long, but it might buy crucial minutes. On the planet, Marcus was with Zaranel in the Emergency Coordination Center. The Spectra's chromatic nature was proving to be a tactical advantage. They could communicate complex information instantly through color patterns, coordinating their response faster than any verbal system. Your people fight for us, Zaranel observed, her skin flickering with gratitude and worry. That's what friends do, Marcus replied. Then, struck by an idea, he asked, can your planetary defense systems interface with human technology? Thymazel overheard and her skin lit up with possibility. If we could synchronize, but it would require direct connection between human and Spectra operators. The resonance effect, Dr. Vasquez said, understanding immediately. We could use it to create hybrid control systems. Within minutes, human volunteers were paired with Spectra operators. As they joined hands, the resonance effect created something unprecedented, a merged consciousness that could operate both technologies simultaneously. The planetary defense grid, dormant for generations, roared to life with newfound efficiency. The first synchronized strike caught the Vorth completely off guard. Energy beams from the planet's surface, guided by the hybrid human Spectra teams, found weak points in Vorth shields that neither species could have identified alone. Impossible, the Vorth commander snarled. The light dancers don't have this capability. They do now, Sarah replied. This is your only warning. Withdraw or be destroyed. The battle lasted less than an hour. The Vorth, faced with unexpectedly effective resistance and the approaching phantom fleet, suggested by human signals, chose to retreat. As their ships vanished into hyperspace, a celebration erupted on Prisma 7 that could be seen from orbit, a planet-wide display of joyous gold and victorious purple. In the council chamber, the mood had transformed completely. Morgath himself stood before the assembly, his skin for the first time showing colors other than black and gray, a deep, contemplative blue. I was wrong, he announced, stunning his followers. The humans didn't bring conflict, they helped us resolve it. Their touch doesn't corrupt us. It completes us. He turned to face Sarah and her team directly. During the battle, I finally allowed myself to experience the resonance. I touched one of your engineers to help coordinate defenses. What I felt? His skin rippled through a spectrum of emotions. I felt your fear for us, strangers you barely knew. I felt your determination to protect us despite the risk. I felt what you call courage, the choice to act despite fear. The vote, when it came, was overwhelming. The Spectra would not only continue contact with humanity, but would establish the first formal interspecies alliance based on biological compatibility. The resonance effect would be studied, developed, and used to build bridges between their civilizations. But the victory celebration was interrupted by another discovery. Thymazel and Dr. Vasquez had continued analyzing the genetic data during the crisis, and they'd found something disturbing. The separation of our species wasn't natural, Thymazel announced to the assembled leaders. These genetic markers show signs of artificial manipulation. Someone or something deliberately split our ancestor species. Elena added, the same markers suggest it was done to prevent something, as if our combined species posed a threat to someone. The implications were staggering. Who had the power to split a species across space and time? And more importantly, why? Kael'vor's skin showed the deep purple of profound thought. The Vorth knew about the resonance. They called us light dancers, but showed no surprise at human involvement. They knew something. Then we need to be prepared, Sarah said. If someone split us apart, they might not be happy about us coming back together. Over the following days, human and Spectra teams worked together to establish protocols for their new alliance. The resonance effect was formally studied and documented. They discovered that prolonged contact created semi-permanent neural pathways between paired individuals, allowing them to sense each other even at a distance. Marcus and Zaranel had developed the strongest bond. They could feel each other's presence from across a room, and with concentration could share simple thoughts without speaking. It was, as xenobiologists from both species agreed, the beginning of a new form of communication. Neither fully human nor fully Spectra, but something evolved from both. The purist faction, now led by a reformed Morgath, transformed into the Integration Council, dedicated to ensuring that the joining of their species preserved the best of both, rather than diminishing either. They established rules for contact, limiting exposure to prevent dependency, while encouraging the deep connections that enhanced both species' capabilities. We're writing the rules for something that's never existed before, Sarah told Earth Command in her report. Not just first contact, but first convergence. Two species learning they're actually one, separated by time and space and someone's intervention. The response from Earth was cautiously optimistic. Humanity had dreamed of finding allies among the stars. Finding family was beyond their wildest hopes. As the Horizon prepared to return to Earth with a Spectra delegation, Zaranel stood with Marcus on the observation deck. Her skin showed the complex pattern she'd developed specifically for him, a unique color signature that appeared only in his presence. "This is just the beginning," she said. "When our peoples fully unite, when we unlock all the capabilities hidden in our separated genetics, we become something new," Marcus finished. "Something that scared someone enough to split us apart millions of years ago." "Then we'd better be ready," Zaranel replied, her colors shifting to determined bronze. "Because whoever separated us might still be out there." As the stars wheeled overhead, human and Spectra stood together, no longer alien to each other, but reconnected family. The touch that had started as an accident had become a bridge between species, a living connection that promised to reshape both civilizations. The real journey was just beginning. The resonance effect had shown them what they could become together. Now they had to prove worthy of that potential while preparing for whatever forces had tried to keep them apart. The universe had just become a far more interesting and dangerous place. Unity through understanding 6 months had passed since first contact. The joint research station orbiting between Earth and Prisma 7 had become a symbol of the new alliance. Called Haven by humans and Charavel, meaning place of joining, bounced by the Spectra, it hosted hundreds of volunteers from both species working to understand their connection. Dr. Elena Vasquez and Ty Mazel had made remarkable progress. Their laboratory was a fusion of human and Spectra technology, holographic displays showing genetic sequences intertwining like cosmic dance partners. But today's discovery would change everything. Sarah, Marcus, all senior staff to the main lab immediately. Elena's voice carried urgency through the station's communication system. When they arrived, they found Elena and Ty Mazel standing before a massive 3-dimensional projection. It showed both species' DNA, but now with new sections highlighted, sections that were beginning to activate in individuals who had experienced prolonged resonance exposure. "The dormant sequences are awakening," Ty Mazel announced, her skin cycling through excited patterns. "Not just the ancient markers we identified before, but entirely new genetic expressions." Elena pointed to specific areas of the projection. "Look at this. Marcus, your DNA has changed. So has Zaranel's. The resonance isn't just creating neural connections, it's triggering evolutionary adaptations." Marcus stepped forward, studying the display with fascination and concern. "Changed how? Are we talking about mutations?" "Not mutations," Elena corrected. "Reactivations. These are genes that both our species have always carried but remained dormant. The resonance is acting like a key, unlocking capabilities that were deliberately suppressed." Zaranel, who had been notably quiet, finally spoke. Her skin showed the deep indigo of profound realization. "The ancient texts speak of abilities our ancestors possessed before the separation. Telepathy beyond colors, manipulation of energy fields, even something called void walking, traveling between spaces without ships." Commander Tanaka frowned. "That sounds like science fiction even for us." "Yet the genetic evidence supports it," Ty Mazel insisted. "These awakening sequences code for proteins we've never seen, structures that could theoretically interact with quantum fields." Sarah felt the weight of command pressing on her shoulders. "How many people are affected?" "So far, about 30% of those who've experienced repeated resonance contact," Elena reported. "The changes are gradual but accelerating." Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. The main view screen activated, showing ships emerging from hyperspace, but these weren't fourth vessels. They were massive crystalline structures that seemed to bend light around them. "Unknown vessels, this is Haven Station," Sarah broadcast. "Please identify yourself and state your intentions." The response came not through communications equipment, but directly into their minds. A presence vast and ancient, speaking in harmonics that bypassed language entirely. "The severed have begun to reunite. The cosmic balance shifts. We are the architects of separation, and we have come to evaluate whether your species have earned the right to reclaim what was taken." Everyone in the room staggered from the mental contact. The Spectra's skins exploded into chaotic patterns, while humans grabbed their heads against the alien pressure. Only Marcus and Zaranel, with their developed resonance bond, seemed able to withstand it fully. "You separated us," Marcus stated. "Not a question, but an accusation. For your protection and ours," the presence confirmed. "Your unified species possessed power that threatened the cosmic order. Young, emotional, without wisdom to match your capabilities. Worlds burned in your wake. Images flooded their minds. Memories millions of years old, of a species that looked like neither modern humans nor spectra, but something between. They saw these ancestors wielding powers that reshaped matter, traveled between dimensions, and fought wars that shattered planets. So you split us," Zaranel said, her skin pulsing with anger. "Made us less than we were." "Made you safe," the architects corrected. "The spectra path led to emotional transparency and harmony. The human path led to intellectual growth and adaptability. Apart you thrived. Together," the presence paused, and somehow they could feel its uncertainty. "Together, we're something new." Sarah stepped forward despite the mental pressure. "We're not our ancestors. Humans learned restraint through suffering. Spectra learned wisdom through transparency. Our reunion isn't recreating the past, it's building a different future." The crystalline ships moved closer, and suddenly the station was engulfed in scanning beams that penetrated every atom. The architects were examining them at a fundamental level, reading not just their DNA but their experiences, their choices, their potential. "Show them," Morgath suggested suddenly. The former purist leader had arrived with the latest delegation. "Show them what we've become together." Without hesitation, humans and spectra throughout the station began joining hands. The resonance effect multiplied exponentially as hundreds of connections formed simultaneously. The station itself began to glow with the combined bioelectric fields of two species becoming one. But more than that, they shared their experiences with the architects. Every moment of cooperation, every problem solved through unity, every threat faced together. They showed how human hidden strength complemented spectra visible emotion, how human innovation paired with spectra intuition, how their differences made them stronger, not weaker. Marcus and Zaranel, as the strongest bonded pair, became the focal point. Through them, the architects witnessed something unprecedented, not the violent merger of their ancestors, but a careful, conscious choice to connect while maintaining individual identity. "We don't want to become what we were," Marcus said, speaking for all of them. "We want to become what we're meant to be, something that honors both paths while creating a third way." The architect's presence withdrew slightly, and they could feel its contemplation. Minutes passed in tense silence before it spoke again. "You have learned what your ancestors could not, balance, but knowledge of your potential will spread. Others will fear what you might become. The fourth were merely the first." "Then help us," Sarah requested boldly. "You separated us to prevent disaster. Now help us reunite to prevent another." The crystalline ships pulsed with harmonics that might have been laughter. "You assume we have such power still? We are observers now. Our time of intervention passed." But a stream of information flooded into the station's computers and directly into the minds of those present. Star charts, warnings about species that would oppose them, and most importantly, instructions for safely managing their reawakening genetics. "There are 12 other separated pairs among the stars," the architects revealed. "Species split as you were for similar reasons. Your successful reunification may inspire them, or terrify those who benefit from their division." 12 others? Kylvor, who had remained silent, finally spoke. "Then our joining isn't just about us. It's about showing the galaxy that unity is possible." "Or impossible," the architects warned. "Many will try to stop you. The next years will determine whether the great experiment of separation ends in triumph or tragedy." With that, the crystalline ships began to fade, not jumping to hyperspace but simply becoming less real, as if they existed partially outside normal spacetime. "Wait," Elena called out. "Will we see you again?" "When you no longer need us, perhaps," came the fading reply. "Prove that wisdom can grow from reunion, and the universe itself will take notice." As the architects vanished completely, everyone in the station stood in stunned silence. They had answers now, origins, purpose, and warning of challenges ahead. But more than that, they had confirmation that their connection was not just important, but cosmic in significance. "Well," Sarah said finally, I think we need to send a message to both Earth and Prisma 7, full disclosure about everything we've learned. And then? Kalefor asked. Then we prepare, Sarah replied. We train our people to handle these awakening abilities safely. We reach out to potential allies, and we show the galaxy that unity doesn't mean uniformity. Over the following weeks, the transformation accelerated. The resonance effect was refined into a formal practice called synchrony training. Pairs learned to merge consciousness temporarily, sharing skills and perspectives. Human engineers working with spectra artists created technologies that responded to emotion. Spectra scientists working with human strategists developed predictive models that accounted for both logic and intuition. Marcus and Zaranel became the first official resonance ambassadors, traveling between worlds to demonstrate the connection's potential. Everywhere they went, they showed that the joining wasn't about one species absorbing another, but about creating something greater than the sum of its parts. Dr. Vasquez and Thymazel established the Evolutionary Ethics Council, ensuring that genetic changes were monitored and guided rather than forced. They discovered that the awakening abilities varied by individual. Some gained enhanced empathy, others developed limited telepathy, and a few showed signs of the energy manipulation their ancestors had wielded. But it was a child, a human girl named Anna who had been born on Haven Station, who showed the greatest potential. Her parents had both undergone extensive resonance exposure, and she seemed to have been born with active unified genetics. She could see spectra emotions without their color changes and project her own feelings visually when she chose. Most remarkably, she sometimes knew things before they happened, as if the quantum entanglement at the heart of the resonance gave her glimpses of probability streams. She's what we're becoming, Elena observed, watching Anna play with both human and spectra children, all of them unconsciously synchronizing their bioelectric fields. Not human, not spectra, but something new. The first major test came when the Vorth returned, this time with a massive fleet and demands for the resonance technology. They saw it as a weapon to be claimed, not understanding it required willing connection between compatible beings. The battle that followed was unlike any in recorded history. Human spectra pairs piloted hybrid fighters that responded to thought and emotion simultaneously. Defense platforms operated by synchronized teams created energy shields that adapted to attack patterns in real time. Most impressively, some of the most advanced pairs managed to project false sensor readings directly into Vorth systems, using their combined bioelectric fields to hack technology through quantum resonance. The Vorth were repelled, but not before sending a message to other species about the threat of human spectra unification. As the architects had warned, fear began to spread through the galaxy. Yet for every species that saw them as a threat, another saw hope. The Quellians, a hive mind species, were fascinated by conscious unity that preserved individuality. The Draenus, shapeshifters who had long struggled with identity, saw in the resonance a way to maintain self while connecting with others. 1 year after the architect's visit, representatives from 57 species gathered at Haven Station for the first Galactic Unity Summit. Not all were ready for resonance-level connection, but all were interested in the possibility of deeper understanding between species. We stand at a crossroads, Sarah addressed the assembly. We can let fear divide us or we can choose connection. Not the forced unity of conquest or assimilation, but the chosen bond of beings who recognize our common destiny among the stars. Morgath, now serving as Spectra Integration Minister, added, The resonance taught us that hiding from each other, whether behind static faces or color-changing skin, only keeps us from our full potential. True strength comes from being seen and seeing others completely. As the summit continued, Marcus and Zaranel stood together on the observation deck, watching the swirl of ships from dozens of worlds. Their connection had deepened to the point where words were often unnecessary. Through their bond, they could feel the pulse of possibility that ran through the station. Fear and hope, doubt and determination, all mixing into something unprecedented. The architects were right about one thing, Zaranel said, her colors flowing in the pattern she reserved for deep contemplation. This is bigger than just our two species. Marcus nodded, feeling through their connection the weight of what they'd started. We're showing the galaxy that evolution doesn't have to mean growing apart. Sometimes it means growing back together. A gentle presence touched their minds. Anna, despite being in the education center 3 levels away. Her nascent abilities were growing stronger daily. Through her, they felt the pulse of the station itself, hundreds of minds learning to connect across the boundaries of species and consciousness. She's the future, Zaranel observed, her and others like her. Not bound by the limitations we've known. Then we'd better make sure it's a future worth inheriting, Marcus replied. As the stars wheeled overhead, Haven Station pulsed with the combined energy of multiple species learning to resonate together. The separation was ending, not in the chaos the architects had feared, but in a conscious choice to unite while celebrating diversity. The journey from first contact to first resonance had taken only a year. The journey from resonance to true unity would take generations. But as human and Spectra and slowly others learned to touch minds and hearts across the void of space and difference, the galaxy itself began to transform. The age of isolation was ending. The age of conscious connection had begun, and in that connection, in the choice to reach across difference and find common ground, lay the seed of something the universe had never seen. Not a single dominant species or forced conformity, but a tapestry of consciousness, each thread unique but all woven together by choice and mutual respect. The resonance effect had started with a single touch. Now it echoed across the stars, a reminder that sometimes the greatest discoveries come not from reaching out to the unknown, but from recognizing the familiar in what once seemed alien. In the end, they were all children of the same cosmos, temporarily separated but finding their way back to unity, one connection at a time.